According to legend, the great writer Ernest Hemingway was taking lunch with a group of his literary friends in New York when he agreed to a wager, challenging him to write a story in just 6 words. Having secured bets of $10 from each of his sceptical contemporaries, he had his lunch, then took pen to napkin and with great deliberation made his inscription. As the napkin was passed around the table, each of his guests gave a sigh of appreciation as they handed Hemingway his winnings. Despite its brevity, the story Hemingway wrote is extremely poignant. But how can just 6 words create such an effect? What is it about stories that makes them so powerful? To understand the importance of stories to us as individuals and as a species, check out this book by Jonathan Gottschall. He explains how early humans painted hunting scenes on cave walls and what looked like warnings about conflict. Stories provide a safe environment to prepare for the world. They allow us to react to things and learn from them without actually experiencing them. Studies have shown that our brains respond in exactly the same way to stories as the direct experience. Storytelling is at the heart of religion, education, and even crime solving. Detectives need to create plausible stories that match the available evidence, for example. Our brains even weave stories as we sleep. So stories are an integral part of being human, and are even involved in how our brains process information. To take in what's going on around us, our brains have specialised centres to process different types of stimuli. One for visuals, one for sounds, one for movement, and so on. Another part of the brain brings it all together and makes sense of it. In other words, a centre for making stories. So our brains are actually wired to look out for and construct stories to enable comprehension. This is why storytelling is such a valuable skill to develop if we want people to understand what we're saying. Here's an example of an advert that appeals to our automatic storytelling capability. We can't help but imagine the sequence of events that must have happened and the reason, and this makes the ad highly memorable. Storytelling is particularly useful for market researchers because it can transform complex information into something more digestible. A familiar story structure makes it easier for people to follow and understand the points being made and string them together to create a powerful, long-lasting memory. Studies have even shown that information in the form of a story is scrutinised less and seen as more worthy of acting upon. This explains why the world's most successful religious leaders have delivered their messages using parables. If we know that storytelling can help us create impact, why do so few of our presentations leverage it? Well, there are many reasons, including apprehension by our client research contacts and the expectation that crafting a story would require additional time that the process won't allow. However, a story-driven approach can actually take less time, not more, and the impact of the end result is well worth the effort of persuading your client to give it a try. So let's now walk through the process. Everything starts with the audience. As Ken Heimer put it, designing a presentation without an audience in mind is like writing a love letter and addressing it to whom it may concern. Here are the 4 main things you should try to find out about your audience, particularly when crafting a story for a presentation. Who will be there and what are their roles? How does the research affect them and what decisions or actions will it influence? Are they likely to be receptive to the findings or resist them? What do they already know about the topic? Are they aware of the backstory? And do they prefer to be given the big picture and then debate the issues, or do they need to see more of the detail and hear the full argument? Putting yourself in your audience's shoes will help you decide on the style and content of the presentation. The process of developing the story is visualised here, and we'll be exploring each step in turn. The first step is to clarify what the end deliverables need to be, because this affects timescales and whether any design specialists need to be involved. These 4 common types of deliverables are suited to different needs, and each requires the information to be presented in a different way. A presentation should tell a story that addresses a specific issue and be tailored to the audience. The focus should be on the presenter and the dialogue with the attendees. After all, why have someone there in person if you don't make the most of their expertise and the opportunity for discussion? A report should also be based around a business issue, but it needs to stand alone without any additional explanation and needs to be easy for people to pick up and read. The purpose of an infographic is usually to share key findings with a wider audience across the client's organisation, so it needs to be very visual, clear and easy to understand, and designed so that it can be printed out and used as a poster. A dashboard or other routine data deliverable will be used for reference, so the main focus is to make it as easy to navigate as possible. There's one other deliverable that is possibly the most valuable of all, the elevator version. Take a look at this letter and think about how you would summarise it without losing any of the key points. Here's one way of doing it. Distilling your story into something as short and as clear as this will help you create far more powerful presentations and impress the client's CEO when they meet you in the elevator on the way to your meeting. The next section will help you achieve this level of clarity in your stories. The elevator version of Lucy's letter illustrates one of the most useful tips for great market research storytelling. Aim to develop a story that has 1 overall message and 3 supporting messages. 4 supporting messages is okay, but 3 is better. 3s are lucky, 3s are magic, and good things always come in them. Here's an example of the framework in action. You should be able to define what goes into these boxes by the end of the analysis and interpretation stage. The next step is to identify the points you'll need to make in each area so that the audience will believe in the message, remember it and act upon it. Once you've decided on all the points, you'll need to figure out the best order in which to make them. Creating a story flow needs a bit of time and space. The trick is to keep trying out different orders in which to present the points until you find a way that works well. Talking out loud and trying to take another team member through the argument is a great way to identify the clearest flow, or if you need to add or subtract something to make it clearer. We can learn a lot from famous stories about what makes an effective story flow. The hero's journey structure, common to Star Wars, The Lion King, The Lord of the Rings, and thousands of other classic stories, provides an excellent template for market research pitches and presentations. At the very start of these stories, everything is normal. There is a status quo that people are quite content with. This creates the sense that the characters have something of value, something they care about and they don't want to lose. This makes what happens next, a threat or a challenge, more emotionally powerful for the audience. At this point, our hero is not ready to be a hero. They're nervous and they don't feel equipped to take on the challenge. Our client is the hero, and we are Dumbledore, Gandalf, and Obi-Wan Kenobi all rolled into one. We offer wisdom and hope and give our clients confidence that with our guidance and support, they will rise to the challenge. The meat of the story consists of quests. 3 would be a good number, in which our hero overcomes challenges that build their knowledge and confidence until they are finally able to defeat Voldemort, destroy the Death Star, or watch the ring fall into the fires of doom. And of course, the hero's journey always has a happy ending, or in some cases, an advert for the sequel. Take a few minutes now to familiarise yourself with how this structure translates to a market research context. There are many ways to tell a great story, but this one has proven to be flexible and highly effective, and is highly recommended. Within the Insights section of the presentation, this flow works well. It starts with the answer to the research question, followed by the evidence and argument that supports it. Then it can help to share something that makes the point memorable for the audience, something they can reference again later. This could be a vox pop or quote, an anecdote, or an evocative image that makes the point powerfully. At the end of each section, it works well to share our thoughts on the implications of the answer, and then open it out to the audience for their builds. Finally, at the end of the presentation, it's a good idea to recap the answers to the 3 research questions and outline our thoughts on the overall implications for the business and any specific recommendations. Then it's over to the audience to build on this and discuss implications as a team, with the researcher participating in or moderating the discussion as appropriate. The ideal output is a set of actions the client will take with names and timescales against each one.